You read the title, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'm finally defending Final Fantasy 15. This is something I've been hinting at doing since I made my video about Type 0, and heavily implied with my Final Fantasy 13 video. Roll the intro, and I'm gonna do my best to defend this game, so I hope everyone enjoys. Now, as all of you know by now, Final Fantasy 15 did not start out as the 15th game in the Final Fantasy series. For whatever glue that Square Enix was huffing, they thought 13 would be so critically acclaimed and successful that not only did they think it deserved 2 sequels, but an entire expanded universe. This series would be called the Febula Nova Crystalis trilogy, which would feature 13, Type 0, and Versus 13. Now, not much is known of this series now because it was cancelled, presumably after Type 0, or the fact that Square finally ran out of whatever they were smoking and realized 13 was bad. From what others have told me in my comments section and researching the Febula Nova Crystalis trilogy myself, it proves to be very headache-inducing from how many conflicting remarks there are, but they were more to be set in the same continuity about defying fate with LITTY and all that, but not necessarily in the exact same universe, which is kind of fucking weird. Now, Versus 13 was presumed to be the game set in the same world as 13. Where the hell would it have been set then if they were in the same universe? I'm not sure, considering 13 has a very specific timeline of events it has to follow. Some say it takes place during Lightning Returns or something like that, which kind of makes the game pointless in that case, since Lightning resets the entire world to basically the real world, so... We also don't really know the story. I know many people say it was supposed to be a tragedy or Noctis was a villain, but we literally don't know as development of Versus 13's story changed a lot over time. We do know it was supposed to have a tragic Romeo and Juliet styled romance, but Nomura also said he wanted it to be a mecha musical, so who really knows what was going to happen? I kid you not, there were so many changes and scraps and do-overs of Versus 13's story that I'm pretty confident some of the trailers we saw for Versus 13 weren't even considered canon anymore at the time they were showcased. Now, this is alleged, but Square Enix was fed up with Nomura being unsure of what he wanted to do with Versus 13. Something he allegedly admitted that he simply had too many ideas and didn't know what to do with them. So they gave the game to Hajime Tabata, whose previous works included Crisis Core and Type 0. I don't know why you would trust a man like him who gave something awful as Type 0, but Crisis Core is a good game, so I'm not gonna judge too much here. With Final Fantasy XIV being the mess it was upon release, Square decided it was time to make a single-player Final Fantasy game again to ease the disappointment of 14 at the time. So they decided to scrap everything Nomura worked on with 13 and changed it to Final Fantasy 15. Though yes, they scrapped everything, they did keep small threads such as Defying Fate, Tragic Loss, and the Chocobros, of course. After a lengthy, immensely delayed, and overly ambitious development cycle, Final Fantasy 15 released on November 29th, 2016. What do you know, the anniversary was one day before this video release. Now, while Type 0 is just gosh awful, and 13 is the ramblings of a lunatic inside of a rundown McDonald's you found on the freeway while driving down the road, 15 is the most divisive among Final Fantasy fans. You have people like myself who absolutely love and adore this game, while you do have others who choose to focus more on the flaws than the positives the game has along with it, while being mega salty about Nomura's vision for this game being scrapped, which is perfectly understandable. Do understand though that I am on the side who loves it, and that hasn't changed in 3 years. So if you think this game is garbage fire and you only play Final Fantasy 1 through 6, then you're not gonna enjoy what I have to say. Just remember fam, opinions are like t-shirts. We all have them. With this lengthy explanation of the game's development, let's begin with me trying to defend it. Not Noctis Lucius Caelum is the prince to the kingdom of Insomnia. His father has told him he must marry the oracle named Ludifreya in order to unite their kingdoms, which is at war with the enemy kingdom of Niflheim. To make sure he's safe and probably reenact the movie The Hangover, he brings along his chocobros for the ride, where Lunafreya is currently awaiting for him so they can marry and peace can finally happen to the two kingdoms. We have Ignis, Noctis' royal advisor who's been by his side since they were very young. He's basically the mom friend and it's wonderful. Also, I ship it. Gladiolus, Noctis' bodyguard who's known Noctis since childhood. Gladiolus is honestly the big buff dad of the group and gosh damn evokes emotions in me I shouldn't have over fictional characters. Prompto, Noctis' best friend who has totally no connections to any of this royal shit whatsoever. No, none at all. He's just a really good friend for Noctis and learned to protect himself and be agile enough to protect him, so he feels worthy enough to be friends with Noctis since Prompto is a commoner after all. The four of them make their way to see Luna until they're told there was a surprise attack by Niflheim and the entire kingdom of Insomnia was destroyed, with Noctis' father dying in the fight, and since no one knew when Noctis would get married, they believed he died in Insomnia as well. A handful of people did manage to survive, but most had royal connections or ties, so basically the regular population was brutally murdered. Kor, the leader of what's basically the Royal Knights of Insomnia, tells Noctis that his father knew Niflheim were coming to attack, so he sent Noctis away so he wouldn't die or get hurt. That's also when Kor tells him that he has a destiny of using the power of the kings of the past, and he must use that to reclaim his home and discover his destiny with the Ring of Lucius that Luna apparently has. It's apparently a magic ring only people in Noctis' family can wear, but it's so powerful that it slowly kills everyone in the Lucius bloodline and insta-kills anyone who uses it unless they sacrifice a specific part of themselves, such as their eyes or arm. We do meet Arden Izunia, a mysterious man who provides some level of aid, but also looks like a suspicious fancy hobo. I mean, look at him. He talks like Scar from The Lion King and dresses like that. Are we really gonna trust him? After some time, Noctis makes it to the city of Altissia, where Luna is apparently there waiting for him, as Noctis now needs to communicate with the gods of Eos, the name of the world of Final Fantasy XV, in order to save everyone from Niflheim and some other stuff no one wants to tell Noctis about. Unfortunately, as Noctis is trying to communicate with the Leviathan, one of the gods and apparently the bitchiest one, that's when Arden kills Luna, which traumatizes Noctis and he completely blames himself. He wakes up the next morning after he's knocked out to find Ignis is now blind because he clearly used something bad to protect Noctis, which makes him feel even worse. The sort of third act comes in where Noctis feels like absolute shit and not strong enough to protect anybody and overall just feels really shitty that everyone he knows is getting hurt because of him, and that's when he goes to the crystal. The crystal is basically a communicator for the gods, and he hopes it will give him the answers he needs, until Arden pushes him into the crystal and it starts to suck him in. Arden then tells Noctis that he's actually Noctis' ancestor, and leaves him there where he takes over Insomnia, and Noctis is trapped in the crystal for 10 years. Now, this is the part many fans are divisive about. This is a problem I will explain further down the line, but Final Fantasy XV suffers an issue many games nowadays suffer from, and that's what I call the DLC wall. There are things missing from the base game of 15. Gladiolus leaving but coming back with all these scars, Prompto missing and now knowing who he is, Noctis wakes up to see Ignis blind, and there's now a 10-year gap, and we never see Noctis inside the crystal where the gods likely told him his destiny. What is his destiny? Okay, so throughout the game, there are people with a disease called Star Scourge. No one knows where it started or who it came from, but it's a disease that basically turns people into demons, and it's agonizing and sad, yada yada. So Noctis' destiny is to get rid of the Star Scourge by killing Arden, who has now become the manifestation of Star Scourge, I think. We are never explained why Arden is the reason this gets rid of Star Scourge, but after killing Arden, Noctis must kill himself, thus ending the Lucius line. They literally do not explain what the disease has to do with the Lucius bloodline in the main game, even with all the DLC. But Noctis' death creates peace, and the Lucius line is now gone forever, with only his friends to remember him now. The end. It's a heartbreaking and depressing story. It's the story of a young man realizing he's given an unfair destiny he literally can't go against, and everyone dies or gets hurt in front of him. Now, this story does have a lot of flaws because of the fact that the game relies so heavily on you playing the DLC after the chapter in which said DLC takes place. It's unfair, it's dumb. However, Royal Edition of 15 includes all DLCs, so if you're buying the game now, then this isn't really an issue as the game comes with it along with all the updates that heavily improve other things like gameplay. The story is also incomplete. You see, as many fans wished for a happy ending for 15 because the game's ending was so sad and depressing, Tabata announced he was working on a DLC series that gave an alternate or true story to 15 that would explain where the Star Scourge came from and who was truly pulling the strings behind the scenes. The story would start with Arden and focus on other characters that got very little development like Aranea and Luna, cause I'll be honest, the Pop-Tart I ate while writing the script had more personality than Luna in the game. This DLC was going to be called Dawn of the Future, and although it started with episode Arden, Dawn of the Future was cancelled in the most anticlimactic fashion ever when Hajime Tabata announced he was leaving Square Enix. I don't know why you don't just get another director for the DLC so you can finish the damn thing, but whatever, I guess. Well, they released Dawn of the Future in the form of a book instead, where you do find out that big jackass Bahamut was pulling the strings the whole time, and wishes to see the downfall of the Lucius bloodline so he can make humanity a hive mind that only listens to him with no questions or individuality. And something about the Lucius bloodline are able to take down Bahamut because they have the blood of the god Ifrit in them. I'm not sure what the full story for that is, but that was one translation I heard, I think. This would cause Arden, Lunafreya, Aranea, and Noctis to all work together and take down Bahamut, which was the one who caused the Star Scourge to begin with. Arden would be redeemed and died fighting, Niflheim's ruler would die for unknown reasons and be taken over by his kind-hearted and illegitimate granddaughter, and Noctis would get his happily ever after. It's honestly a really beautiful storyline in the way it was described, and I really wish they could have made the DLC, but unfortunately the DLC was cancelled, so we really just have to rely on the book. The book is also currently not fully translated yet. I had to rely on multiple fan translations, so I have to take everything with a grain of salt. But Square Enix did announce that somewhere in 2020 we'd get the English release of the book sometime, and I do definitely plan to buy and read it. Though unlike 13, where all the story elements are told to you through menus, with the current version of 15 that is Royal Edition, then you do get all the pieces of the main story, and the original ending is complete, even if it's sad as all fuck. Though this isn't to say all of 15 media is tied down to a book and the game. There was an anime series to hype up 15 called Brotherhood that did explain how Noctis met all of the Chocobros, and how Noctis changed their lives for the better, instead of how Noctis believes he's making their lives worse. The thing is you don't have to see this anime. It's optional story, and that's perfectly fine. I think there's enough development of the Chocobros in the game that it's fine if you don't know their backstories, especially when Ignis and Prompto do show major hints, but you can still see it, and it is pretty good. There is also a very technically impressive movie that explains what happened to Insomnia pretty much the second Noctis left the kingdom. Overall, the story of 15 is technically incomplete, but it's enough where I do feel like the story is still there, and yeah, I am deeply upset that Dawn of the Future was cancelled, when I believe it would have been amazing DLC to play and really could have redeemed 15 a lot for hardcore Final Fantasy fans. But that's just me, and I am kind of loony. The gameplay is one of the major issues and sources of criticism involved in 15. Now, I think fans like myself know that the change from turn-based to action RPG was going to happen, and I think a lot of us knew it was going to be a shaky start since Square always did turn-based Final Fantasy games for the last 32 years, so the transition was going to be very rough. While yes, Square has major experience in action RPGs thanks to Kingdom Hearts and spin-off Final Fantasy titles, this is a main series Final Fantasy title, so they had to tread very lightly here as to not upset too many fans. I say this because it is true, the gameplay of Final Fantasy 15 is just a little clunky. It's not unplayable, I still have a lot of fun playing this game, but it is a rough start when I play this game for the first time in a while. You fight with circle, dodge with square, jump with X, and use your warp abilities with triangle. You can also rotate your weapons out for some enemies so that way they go down much easier with certain weapons and abilities. Yes, by the way, I fully agree the magic system in 15 sucks. Like, for a kingdom that Noctis comes from that relies on magic a lot, they have a very shitty magic system, my gosh. I do wish it wasn't so basic but confusing at the same time, but I found myself never using magic anyway unless it was required for a quest, so... That's another thing. There are a lot of quests, dungeons, and mini-hunts in this game. While people do say these quests are boring because it's essentially the same objective of find the thing or kill the thing, isn't that literally every MMORPG side quest though? I mean, even some quests in Skyrim suck. Yes, I'm looking at you, you dumb dog that makes me avoid Falkreath like the damn plague despite my house being there. Though, I kid you not, Final Fantasy 15 has so many side quests that I actually haven't beaten the game yet in 3 damn years. I mean, yes, I obviously know how it ends because I watched an entire playthrough of the ending portion, but I'm just saying, yeah, that's how long this game is when I've owned this game for 3 years and I still haven't beaten it because of all the side quests I want to do. And yes, perhaps the reason the side quests take up so much time is the car you drive around with your bros called the Regalia is kind of slow. I mean, we all remember 15 was the butt of many driving simulator jokes, but I liked the Regalia the same way I love sailing in Wind Waker. Seeing the world pass by in a vehicle, whether in real life or in a video game, is a relaxing thing for me. And I love that you can play Final Fantasy soundtracks in the car, so I just sit there listening to 13's soundtrack with the chocobos driving in the car. It's honestly really relaxing. Maybe that's what 15 is supposed to be, since the advertisement was that it was a Final Fantasy game for mostly newcomers in mind. Perhaps my filthy casual self just really likes how chill the game was for a newbie. Who knows? Not to mention the Regalia is a beautiful car, and that's coming from someone who doesn't really care too much for cars. I think overall, the gameplay is perfectly fine. Yeah, there's some mechanics I genuinely think are weak, like the magic system, and maybe the Regalia could go a little faster, but overall, there's a reason I play this game from 4 p.m. until I look at the clock and now it's 5 in the morning. This game is amazing, at least to me. Yes, this game requires you to have DLC in order to fully understand the story, watch a 6-part anime series to understand the characters, a movie to understand what happened to the Crown City. Noctis' relationship with Luna is so underdeveloped that I ship him with Ignis more than I do Luna. Gameplay can be a smidge clunky, the magic system is honestly garbage, the Regalia can be a little boring to some, and the story still somehow manages to be incomplete. Even with all these flaws, I still love this game. You could say that Final Fantasy 15 is worse than 13 and Type 0 because they never made you pay or watch more media to understand the story, but geez, at least I understand it here. The story for 15 is not complex enough where you feel like you're listening to complete ramblings of a lunatic on whatever they have on their mind like 13. It's a tragic but simplistic story. At the same time, I think fans should also chill out a bit too. I personally don't think Versus 13 was going to be amazing, just from how all over the place Nomura seemed to be with this game. And yeah, I'm saying that as a major fan of Nomura's work, but even I can admit the guy's not flawless. Just look at Kingdom Hearts to show that he is a flawed creator. when you really sit back and think about it, and look at all the absolute hell Final Fantasy 15 went through just to be out to the public like this, you almost have to wonder if the game was cursed. At least it seems that way from how much went wrong behind the scenes. Even though it's a flawed game, I still love it. This is one of those games I think is flawed, but brilliant as well. If anyone is familiar with the game Rule of Rose, it's exactly like that. A game in deep development trouble and ended up with poor critical reception, but it's genuinely an incredible game if you just get past the thorns of it, you know? The characters, the music, the scenery, cities, designs, monsters, combat system when it wants to be fun, and technical achievements is all what makes me love this game so damn much. I sort of bought my PS4 just for this game, and my love for 15 hasn't changed since then. Yeah, maybe I'm biased, or my thirst for pretty Final Fantasy boys is in the way of that, but honestly, this is the one positive game I can say is in the Febula Nova Crystalis trilogy, even though it's not really part of the trilogy anymore. Let me know what you guys think though. Is 15 not as flawed as many think to where it is a genuinely amazing game, or are you on the side that thinks this is worse than 13? This would be it for my review of the Febula Nova Crystalis trilogy of games. This is a fun series to do of games, and a part of me kinda hopes that someday they will get revived and get the justice they deserve. Who knows though, maybe in the year 3000, Square Enix will announce 15 gets a remake, and in the year 5000, we finally get the game some Final Fantasy fans wanted out of 15. Luckily for me, I'm content with this game, so it looks like my ghost won't be wandering around for that one. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. And if any old or new subs would like to help support the channel in any way, then feel free to visit my Ko-fi page down below in the description, along with my social media tabs. For any subscribers, new or old, who'd like to help with video ideas or maybe want to talk about anime or something, then I have a fan server linked down below. See you next time!